Hello everybody and welcome to Phil But Flies. It's been a while. So this afternoon we are going to be flying from Nagasaki to Tokyo Haneda. It's the return leg of the flight that we did, I can't remember when, a week or so ago. And the weather so far is looking rather better than it was last time. Clear skies, a few scattered clouds just over there to the south. But should be a good one, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is start my pre-flight events in Flight Crew A320.
Let's start setting up, shall we?
Good afternoon, Pablo. How are things? Nice to see you. So the jetway's moving across thanks to it being controlled by Flight Crew A320. Hello, Mossy. Nice to see you too. Welcome to the stream. How have you both been since I last saw you? So I've attached the external power, turned on the batteries and turned on our nav and logo light because the aircraft is powered up. Next thing I'm going to do is turn on the ADIRs and start them aligning. Hello Mr. Zambu, welcome to the stream. And I'm going to extinguish all the white lights on the overhead panel. So we'll turn on the fuel pumps, we'll turn on the crew oxygen supply and we'll arm the emergency exit lights. We'll set up our air conditioning ready for when we start the APU. And we'll brighten up our displays down here. Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Mossy. Yeah, I did my first flight in VATSIM yesterday with Kevin, who is another regular on my streams, and it was really good fun. Had a bit of a disaster when the aircraft started messing me about on final. And so I had to go around, and it was all a little bit too real, to be honest. I was trying to tune my radios and talk to the tower, and yeah, quite stressful. But up to that point, it was a lot of fun. So I'm just brightening up all my displays, and once I've done that, we can start setting up the MCDU. Yeah, I've always been a bit nervous, especially in this simulator, because you know the aircraft don't work properly, as we know. And I was right to be, as it turns out. but it'll get easier. Yeah, it was good fun. Right, so our flight number today is NH664. This is the latest version of the master version of the A320NX mod, if anyone's wondering why the MCDU looks a little bit different. But suffice to say, Mossy, I'm not using VATSIM today, we're using Pilot to ATC, but maybe once I've done a few more flights on my own, I might give it a go. And what altitude are we cruising at? Can't remember. 350, that's right. We'll go over to the flight plan page and check our details for the departure. So we can expect a runway 32 departure because the wind is from the north, and we don't, surprisingly, have a SID planned. We're just going to climb straight out and then I might make a right hand turn. And on that note, why don't we listen to the ATIS and get our clearance?
Nagasaki Information Yankee, 12-0 Zulu, winds are 007 at 12 knots. Visibility 6 miles. 3,000 few clouds. 9,000 broken.
No, we certainly don't have broken clouds at 9,000.
Current QNH is 1014. Arriving and departing runway 32. Nagasaki Information Yankee, 12-0 Zulu, winds are 007 at 12 knots. Visibility 6 miles.
Nagasaki ground, all Nippon 664 ready to copy IFR clearance.
All Nippon 664 is cleared to Romeo Juliet Tango Tango as filed. Expect departure runway 32. Climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 121.0 squawk 6646.
All Nippon 664 is cleared to Romeo Juliet Tango Tango as filed. Climb and maintain 4,000 feet.
You did, Mossy, and I'm pleased you made it.
Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 121.0 Squawk 6646.
All Nippon 664 read back correct. QNH is 1014, let us know when you're ready for pushback.
So the in-sim QNH is slightly wrong, but other than that, we're alright. At least the winds are from the right direction. Right, I'll just go back to my Pilot to ATC and turn on the transponder. Because for some reason it doesn't pick up the position of the transponder in the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Alright, I think we can get our APU started up. Master switch on, wait for 3 seconds, click the start button, and monitor it down here if you can be bothered. And we'll go back to setting up our MCDU. So we've done the flight plan page. You can move over to the init-B page now. And as of the latest mod update, these figures are not automatically populated, so you can fill them in yourself, or you can cheat, click this line select key here, and the figures will come up down there. Click it again to put them in here. And our block fuel is loaded, so we can just take it from our fuel on board display, 7.9 tons. And one day, I imagine all of these figures will be calculated for us, which will be nice. This mod is getting better and better. How's your flight going, Mossy? I can't remember where you're flying from and to. If we move over to the performance page, we're going to be doing a flaps 1 takeoff. What's the transition altitude? I don't know. Let's have a look at a SID. It will tell us 14,000. Oh yes, we learned that last time, didn't we? It seems to be 14,000 everywhere in Japan. The transponder works with Pilot to ATC off. Well, it's a bit iffy, Pablo, but in the Pilot to ATC window, all you have to do is switch it on at the top. So it seems to put the code in, so 6646 is there. To the left of it, you can choose between standby, active, alt and off. So I tend to set it to active at the beginning of the flight, and then I can forget about it, although realistically I'd probably put it on standby until you were pushing back from the gate. What, the code doesn't come up, Pablo, you mean? So if you put in 6646 down here, are you saying that Pilot to ATC doesn't recognise it? I actually calculated our V-speeds using an online calculator today. I usually use the default ones because there's no really realistic way of doing it, because the online calculator doesn't have the NEO in it. But we did this yesterday, Kevin and I, so and the V-speeds worked. Either way, you can leave them set to default, or you can calculate your own, and it'll all work, in my experience. So we're going to be using a flex takeoff temperature of 54, also calculated online. I believe we have these warnings on the upper ECAM display because my thrust levers weren't at idle when I turned the aircraft on. But never mind. Okay, what else do we need to do? Turn on our flight directors. So Pablo, I think it was you who was asking for a tutorial for this aircraft. And you'll be pleased to hear I've started working on a tutorial from which sort of takes you through from cold and dark all the way to pushback. And I won't lie to you, it's driving me slightly mad. I've done several takes and I've spent quite a number of hours on it, and I'm still not happy with it. But it will get there, it's just a bit of a slow process with me. But yeah, that is coming at some point. Seatbelts on, no smoking to auto, and we'll set the dome light to dim in case of a loss of power after takeoff. The dome light will stay lit directly from the batteries. Oh good, I'm glad you're finding it useful, Mossy. Why did I come over here? Oh yes, to look at the time. So it's 1:40 now, and we are scheduled to depart at 01:55 Zulu. So we'll fast forward the pre-flight events slightly.
Hi, the security and safety checks are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes, you can start boarding.
Okay.
Ignore what, Pablo? Sorry, I think I missed a message some point. So the APU has started. It's available down here, so we can turn on the APU bleed, and we can turn off the external power. Oh, okay. Right, you understand what I'm saying. Cool. And we can start our before start checklist now. We've finished preparing the cockpit.
Before start checklist.
Cockpit prep.
Completed.
Completed. Gear pins and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On and auto.
ADIRS.
Nav.
Fuel quantity.
Set.
Takeoff data.
Set.
Baro ref.
1012 set.
1012 set. Down to the line.
And we'll carry on below the line once the doors are closed and we're ready to push back. And while we wait for boarding to complete, let's just remind ourselves of what this airport looks like. I'm sure you'll all be aware of this by now, but this airport was built by Gaia Simulation in conjunction with Asobo as part of the Japan update. And I would say it's a step above the default handcrafted airports we've had so far. Yeah. It's don't get me wrong, Pablo, it is a good idea. It will be useful to people, so it's worth doing. But yeah, I did my first flight for a long time yesterday, as I was saying, and it was just so nice to do something other than sit at a gate and switch switches and talk. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it, Mossy? At some point, I'd like to go and have another look at Kushiro, which is basically the other big commercial airport that was included in the update, which we flew out from. I think it was on launch day, wasn't it? On the launch day of the latest release. I also note from the official Microsoft Flight Simulator forums that someone is working on an AI traffic add-on, which applies the correct liveries to your traffic, whether it's the live traffic or the in-sim AI. And I've heard people having a few problems, and the developers saying we're about to release a new version. You can help beta test it, but that is one to keep an eye on. That'll be really good if we can have realistic liveries and realistic aircraft types in sim. Instead, for example, of the Andalou jet, which is seldom to be found in Nagasaki. I actually installed that one by mistake. I dragged it along when I was also installing the ANA livery. Okay.
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you.
Thanks.
No problem, have a safe flight.
We do need shared cockpit. There are two options at the moment. There's a free one, I can't remember what it's called. But apparently it's a bit buggy, and again they're going to release a new version soon. And there is a commercial one sold via Sim Market, which is about €15, something like that. And I don't want to pay for one at the moment particularly. But yeah, I'm keeping my eye on the freeware one.
If you are unable to accommodate any item in the cabin, please bring it to the boarding door and we will check it for you. Also review the safety instruction in your seat pocket. If you are seated at an exit seat, also review the exit seating criteria.
Okay, so I think we can make our welcome announcement now.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello to you from the flight deck. This is the captain speaking. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you aboard our flight today. Lovely to have you with us, and nice to see some of our frequent flyers as well. Just a note about our seatbelt policy. Whilst the signs are illuminated, please do ensure that your seatbelt is fastened. Once we get airborne, I do anticipate we'll be able to turn the seatbelt sign off, at which point you'll be free to get up and move about the cabin. However, we would advise that whilst you are seated, you keep the seatbelt fastened and visible just in case of any unexpected lumps and bumps.
Yes, there is an element of that, isn't there,
An
Pablo?
excellent cabin crew
It's a
team
technical...
on board with us
All
today.
packs are on board.
They shortly
Are
will
we
be
cleared to
showing you a
close?
video
Yep.
briefing you on
Thanks.
the
Let me know
safety
if you need
features and
anything.
procedures.
Well, you're cleared to
for this
close, but but I'm
Airbus
making an
aircraft.
announcement. You
Would
know what
ask
I
that
mean?
even
Pick
if
your
you are a
moments,
frequent
please.
flyer, you do pay close attention to that briefing.
Yeah, it is.
as
It's a
every
technical
aircraft
challenge,
is
isn't it,
slightly
learning?
different. Thanks very much once again. I'll leave you in peace for now and hand you over to the cabin crew for that demonstration, and we'll be on our way very shortly. Thank you.
Okay, so with 1 minute to go on our pre-flight checks, you'll notice that the door has closed. Not pre-flight checks, pre-flight events in Flight Crew A320. Door is closed and the jetway's moving away. And I've just noticed that the wheels rotate and move in the right direction. I've got a feeling that might be a new feature. Either that or I just haven't noticed it before. But it's nice to see. Right, so we can now turn on the beacon, check that our thrust levers are at idle, and run the before start checklist below the line.
Below the line.
Windows and doors.
Closed.
Closed. Beacon.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
On.
Before start checklist complete.
One of the things I noticed us doing in my tutorial is calling them thrust levers. Now, I don't know why he says levers. I've never heard another English person call them levers. So that was one of my takes that I decided to redo. What are you doing? You call them levers. That's how you speak. Say it properly. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit obsessed with making sure it's just right. Anyway, back to our flight. Let's ask for push and start clearance. Nagasaki ground, all Nippon 664, ready for pushback and engine start.
All Nippon 664 pushback and engine start approved.
Pushback and engine start approved. All Nippon 664.
Oh, good luck with your descent, Mossy. I used to fly to Naples a lot. We had a really good scenery for it in Prepared, and that's another one I can't wait for them to bring across. Okay, so we're cleared for pushback and engine start.
Cabin crew, arm slides and cross-check, please.
And I've measured the distance and hopefully got it just about right for pushback express.
Cockpit to ground. Go ahead, flight deck. We are ready for pushback and engine start. Roger. Release the parking brake, please. Parking brakes released. Pushing back.
Ah, that's annoying. Have you tried the speech recognition training? If you have, it could be, I don't know, it could be a microphone, not up to scratch, I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you Google Windows 10 speech recognition, I'm sure you'll find it.
You are clear behind and you can start your engine at your discretion.
Starting engine 1.
Okay, so I slightly underestimated the pushback distance we needed, but better under than over.
Pushback complete. Set parking brake, please. Parking brake set. Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you on the left side with the pin. Thanks, and you can disconnect and go to hand signals. Thanks, have a good flight. See you later.
No, thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board today. This is your purser speaking. Please direct your attention to the cabin crew for important safety information. There is an instruction card in your seat pocket that illustrates the safety equipment on board this aircraft. Regulations.
So, while engine 2 is starting, I'm just going to tidy up my desktop a bit, make sure I can see your chat properly,
Fasten your seatbelt by inserting the metal tip into the
and we'll
buckle.
monitor it down here.
Tighten by pulling on the belt. To release your seatbelt, lift the metal flap on the buckle. It is our policy that you keep your seatbelt fastened at all times while seated. Doors are clearly marked with exit signs and instructions for door operation. Each door is equipped with an escape slide. Locate the nearest exit to you and note that the nearest exit may be behind you. In an emergency, lights will illuminate the aisle. The cabin is pressurized. If there is a loss of cabin pressure, a panel will open and oxygen masks will appear. Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and pull a
Okay,
mask
so both our
towards you
engines
to
are
start the flow
started
of
and
oxygen.
stable.
Oxygen
So
will
we
flow through
can
the mask even though the bag may not
turn the engine mode selector back to
Cover your
normal,
nose and mouth with a mask. Place the
turn off our
electric band
APU
around the
bleed,
neck
and
tighten
turn
by
off our
pulling on the
APU.
neck.
We'll turn on the taxi
Secure
switch,
your own
taxi
mask
light while we're up
before
here,
assisting others.
and we'll request our taxi
Your
clearance.
life jacket is located under your seat. Tighten the straps and once outside the aircraft, pull on the tabs to
Nagasaki ground, all Nippon 664 ready to taxi.
If the jacket fails to inflate,
All Nippon
use the
664
tube
taxi
placed
to
near the
runway
neck.
32 via
Your
taxiways
jacket is
Papa
equipped with a
2,
light that
Papa
will
1,
automatically
Tango
illuminate
1,
in water.
hold short runway 32.
This is a non-smoking flight.
Taxi to
Smoking
runway
is not
32
permitted
via
in the cabin
taxiways
After start
Papa 2,
checklist.
Papa 1,
Cabin lights will
Tango
now
1,
Anti-ice.
hold short
Set.
runway
ECAM
32
status.
all Nippon
Checked.
664.
Pitch trim.
For your attention.
26% set.
Rudder trim.
0.
After start checklist complete.
Flight control check.
So you can do your flight control check while you're taxiing. It's a little bit tricky.
Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Particularly your rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Mossy. I think, I'm not certain, but I think you can actually use your own audio files to replace them with.
Before takeoff checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. Briefing.
Confirmed.
Flat setting.
Config 1 plus F.
Config 1 plus F. V1, VR, V2, flex temp.
V1 145 VR 151 V2
Hello, John. Nice to see
152.
you.
V1 145 VR 151 V2 152 ATC.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Take off no blue.
Down to the line.
Not strictly true. We have an ECAM memo with some blue, so we'll set the auto brakes to max, and we will ding the cabin crew. This is the thing that really gets on my nerves, that when you have to do this to get the cabin ready message, but then you also ask the crew to take seats for takeoff as part of the FS2 crew checklist. Minor thing, but I'd like an option to turn at least one of them off. Hello, Fawaz. Yes, I am. This is the latest version. I downloaded it this morning, the master version.
All Nippon 664 contact tower on 118.5. Have a great flight.
Tower on 118.5 all Nippon 664.
Hello, Harry. Nice to see you. Welcome. You and Fawaz and John have all three arrived at just the right time. We're about to take off. All Nippon 664 ready for departure, runway 32.
All Nippon 664 winds R007 at 12 knots cleared for takeoff. Runway 32 maintain runway heading until above 1000 feet and turn heading 3562 in VRCPT course.
Cleared for takeoff. Runway 32 maintain runway heading until above 1000 feet then to 356 All Nippon 664.
So that's an interesting clearance. Because we're not following a standard instrument departure, we've been told to follow runway heading, which is actually 324, and then turn right heading 356 once above 1000 feet. So we'll have to remember to do that. Yeah, the A320 mod's incredible. Best freeware I've ever seen for a flight simulator, I think. Right, so we've got our takeoff clearance. We'll turn on our takeoff, turn our nose light to takeoff, runway lights to on, strobe to on, and we're good to go. We'll run the before takeoff checklist below the line.
Cabin crew, be seated for takeoff. Takeoff runway.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Cabin crew.
Advised.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Packs.
On.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Okay, everybody ready?
Ready?
Ready.
Takeoff.
And he's turned the auto brake off again. Don't know why that happens. Right, so thrust levers up to about 50%, engine stable, and up to man flex.
Man flex, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Check. Thrust set. $100 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
AP1.
Check.
Okay, now we can turn right heading 356. Because we're above 1,000 feet.
And maintain 1,300 feet, contact Nagasaki, departure on 1210, have a good morning.
Climb and
Up to
maintain
13,000.
13,000 feet, departure on 121.0 All Nippon 664.
I will have a look at
Departure
your
All Nippon
messages in a
664,
second.
climbing to 13,000 feet.
All Nippon 664, good morning. Radar contact.
So I think what we can probably do now, because we're going direct to Hasmi, we should just be able to go Dyer and then Hasmi, and that should, yeah, it should, well, it should automatically turn us back into managed heading mode, but we can do that manually. And now we're complying with the ATC instructions to intercept our flight plan there.
Flaps 0.
Speed checked. Flaps 0.
No, the accent doesn't get easier to understand, and I still haven't deleted the voice, John.
All Nippon 664 climb.
I always
maintain
forget.
13,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 13,000 feet. All Nippon.
Oh, you just got P3D,
664.
Harry. Interesting. How are you finding it so far? Glad you're all belted up, fellas. And welcome to the stream, Nair. Do correct my pronunciation if I'm saying any of your names wrong. Right, we'll run our after takeoff climb checklist. I suppose some of you want to see the pretty scenery, so I'll do it from outside.
After takeoff, climb checklist.
Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Packs.
On.
Down to the line.
And we'll continue below the line once we pass our transition altitude of whatever it was, 14,000. So not a bad takeoff if I do say so myself. Interesting instructions from ATC that I'm not really used to with any of the add-ons I've used before, so that was a bit of a challenge, but not too bad. It's a good sim, Harry. You can fly more realistically and prepared than you can in this, for sure. Particularly with the FS2 crew add-on, but I wouldn't spend too much money on add-ons for it, because you know, they'll ultimately come over to this platform, and then we'll have the gorgeous scenery, decent weather, and decent add-ons, which of course is the dream. Yeah, it took me a long time to get the hang of the drone, Pablo. So I've got the height.
Nippon 664 expedite climb to 13,000 feet.
Expedite climb to
I've got the height on my number pad 8 and 2 keys, and most of the rest of it on my joystick axes. So we're above 10,000 feet, so we'll turn the landing lights off, and because it's smooth we can turn the seatbelt sign off as well. Oh, thanks, Harry. Yes, it would be much appreciated if people did want to like the stream. I also understand that you maybe want to
Nippon 664
to watch me land before you decide just how much you like it.
210 all Nippon 664.
So up to flight level 210, and because we've been cleared for a flight level above the transition altitude, we can now set our altimeter to standard by pushing it in. We can instruct the first officer to do the same.
Set standard.
Standard, cross-checked, passing flight level 131. Now.
Check.
Yeah, it's certainly visually the best, Fowers. I think both X-Plane and Prepared have more realistic flight models.
Nippon 664 contact Tokyo Center
yeah,
on
the A320 is quite good.
Enjoy your morning.
And I can't wait for FS Labs to bring their A320 across.
Take care all Nippon 664.
Right, let's run the after takeoff climb checklist below the line once we've checked in the centre.
Nippon 664 climbing to flight level 210.
All Nippon 664 good morning. Radar contact.
Below the line.
Baro ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff checklist complete.
And that's us done with our checklist until we start setting up for our arrival. Oh yeah, the PMG G737 will be brilliant. I'm looking forward to that as well. In fact, all of their aircraft are good, but the 737's the one I think I flew the most. Probably what most people flew the most. Yes, yeah, I saw there was a new update coming out. I haven't had a good look at what's in it yet. I'm just going to turn on our integrated lights because the panels are looking a little dim. And now we're climbing, we can turn off our dome light. Someone commented on one of my videos that it was a bit naughty to fly with the dome light on, and I said, well, it's supposed to be on for takeoff, but I didn't actually watch the video to see if I'd left it on the whole time. I suspect I might have. Oh, thanks, Neil. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yes, all of the default non-handcrafted airports are totally dark, and for me, it spoils the illusion quite a lot. Well, not only that, but you can't see where you're going. So I think from now on, I will mostly fly during the day, unless it's to an add-on airport, which I know has decent lighting. It was spectacular last night. We were flying from Heathrow to Copenhagen Kastrup. And we had nice weather at Heathrow, took off around sunset, and it got dark, and it was a bit stormy around Denmark, and we were descending through these clouds, and of course the landing lights were reflecting back off the cloud, and then there was thunder and lightning and a bit of rain. It was very atmospheric, And then after landing, of course, that airport has beautiful night lighting, and it totally felt like you were there. But if you were flying into Heathrow, or, well, not Heathrow, it's a poor example, but one of any other sort of default non-handcrafted airport, it would have rather spoilt it for me. The other thing I'm realising as I do this tutorial for the A320 and it gets, and I go into detail about the order in which you do everything, it makes me very aware I forget quite a lot.
Flight level 290.
I forget quite a lot when I'm streaming.
Flight level 290, all Nippon 664.
And I don't want people to watch the tutorial, then go and look at some of my live streams and start pulling me up on things that I've told them to do that I'm not doing myself. Yeah, me too, Pablo. Well, mostly me too, with the exception of Edinburgh, because it was requested by Harry, I think, wasn't it? It was Harry who wanted Edinburgh to London. But at the same time, I'm missing out on huge swathes of the world where there are no handcrafted or payware airports. Like, I had a chap on my last stream who wanted me to fly between... Ooh, interesting lightning. He wanted me to do a flight between Delhi and Mumbai, and I'd love to do that. I know the airports would spoil it, and I said no, not until there's some payware add-ons. But I don't know. Maybe I should just bite the bullet and do it and see the world. Yeah. Yeah, up until Japan, there were very few handcrafted airports outside the US and Europe. But I guess that makes sense. That's probably where the bulk of the market is for the sim. But if they do what they do with Japan, with other areas of the world, and do include some new airports for free, that'll be fantastic. I'm going to start the top of descent. Should be about, 100 miles before arrival. I can give you a time. So yeah, our estimated time en route to the top of descent is 42 minutes, which is 318 miles. This is what Pilot to ATC is telling me anyway. So that's actually about 190 miles before the airport, which is 507 nautical miles away. But I really like flying over Japan. I've done a few more flights on my own just in light aircraft, and it is beautiful. So if people want to release payware airports for Japan, I may well invest, I think. Oh dear, looks like we might not see Mount Fuji again because of this cloud. Yeah, I'm sure you're right now. I think watching the stream, people aren't that fussed about the scenery, but I am. That's why. So I enjoy flying between payware or handcrafted airports, and that's why I do it. So it's really for my benefit more than anyone else's. Is it just me, or did we just hear Pilot to ATC talking to another aircraft? I think we did, EVA 4. I didn't know it could do that. I've certainly never heard it controlling aircraft before. Interesting. Actually, that's not true. I have on last flight, actually, we were told to hold short of the runway, because there was an AI plane on final. So yeah, I think the integration with this sim is better than I gave it credit for, to be honest. Yeah, I know, Mossy, I know. I used to use Pro ATCX in P3D, and one of the benefits of that was that it would not quite control other aircraft. It certainly wouldn't on the ground, but in the air it would get them out of your way on approach, and you would hear it talking to them and basically telling them what to do after they'd done it, so it sounded a bit like they were issuing instructions, but I think they were just reading the AI traffic flight plans and instructing them accordingly after they made their turns or climbs or whatever. Proper thunder and lightning down below from the looks of things. I have with the CJ4 Pablo, with its porpoising or dolphining or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that did make me feel sick and I had to stop. But I haven't flying this so far. Although now you've said it, looking at it bob up and down a little bit, I can certainly see where you're coming from. Yeah, look, it's talking to EVA 56 now.
All Nippon 664 climb and maintain flight level 350.
Climb and maintain flight level 350, all Nippon 664.
So EVA 56, if you're interested, is a flight from Taipei to Chicago O'Hare.
All Nippon 664 contact Tokyo Center on 132.5. Have a good morning.
Center on 132.5, all Nippon 664. Center all Nippon 664 climbing to flight level 350.
All Nippon 664 good morning. Radar contact. All Nippon 664 climb and maintain flight level 350.
I am.
Climb and maintain flight level 350, all Nippon 664.
They're very impatient, these controllers. Oh yeah, anyway, before I got overexcited by Pilot 2ATC talking to other aircraft, I was going to check the weather, wasn't I? So, we are expecting cloud and rain, unfortunately. Few clouds at 700 feet, broken clouds at 900 feet, broken clouds at 1100 feet. But no cumulonimbus as far as I can see. Well, do you know what? I think it's time for a little bit of cruise music. If I can find any. Oh yeah, I've got some downloaded.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments, we'll begin our meal station for the flight. Please refer to the menu given to you on board meal choices and the beverage choices. We request that you keep the aisles clear to assist the flight attendants with their assistance and also for your own safety.
More traffic in sight.
Hang on. Let me just check my settings. This could be the default ATC we're hearing, because I was playing around with that the other day. Yeah, I think it's the default ATC. Let's turn that off to save conflict later. So quick straw poll for those of you who are watching. Next stream I'm torn between flying from Haneda back to Koshiro and doing a flight from Bristol to somewhere in Europe. Do you have any preference? I'll take that as a no. I'll see how I feel the day before. Oh, I was just saying, for the next flight, I'm torn between flying from Haneda up to Koshiro, where we started our tour of Japan, so completing the return leg, or doing a flight from Bristol to somewhere in Europe. Go on then, Naya. Nah, sorry.
All Nippon 664 expedite climb to flight level 350.
Expedite climb to flight level 350 all Nippon 664.
Oh, we're only 500 feet below it. Return leg, okay. Okay. Haneda to Koshiro it is. Oh no, conflict on the channel. Bristol to Paris. I don't know. I'll see how I feel the day before, unless there's an overwhelming number of people wanting one over the other.
Climb and maintain flight level 350 all Nippon 664.
I'm not being funny. We are at flight level 350. Why are they telling me to keep climbing? Let's have a look at pilot to ATC. You're all allowed to smoke if you want to, but you have to go right to the very back by the exit door and face backwards as well. I mean, I'm vaping in the cockpit, so I'm not one to judge, really. Although I hasten to add, smoking and vaping are both very bad ideas. So don't do it, kids. You're right. You're right. There we are. Very good. Very good. Don't know if the window... No, they're not operable. I have done that though with the FS Labs A320 before now. Got above 10,000 feet, sudden depressurization alarms going off. It's because I hadn't shut the window. I haven't had the chat box open, have I? Sorry about that. Still, I should have some chat-free footage for my tutorial, that's something. I think it is better for you. I'm pretty convinced. It's obviously early days and no one knows the lasting effects, but there's nothing carcinogenic in e-cigarettes as far as anyone's aware. The restream chat box isn't working, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get a flyby view for my tutorial, just while I'm rabbiting on at the beginning with the introduction. Let me press record. Let's try that again. Yeah, the clouds look awesome, don't they? I wish I could rotate the drone a little bit more smoothly. Just bear with me while I try and get my footage sorted. Let's turn that down a bit. Feels exactly the same, to be honest with you. Let's turn it down a bit more. Oh, that's better. Right, flyby, take 4.
All Nippon 664
Good, that'll do me.
contact Tokyo Center on 133.5. Enjoy your morning.
Center on 133.5 All Nippon 664. Center All Nippon 664 at flight level 350.
All Nippon 664 good morning. Radar contact.
I did now, I did. Yeah, I looked I looked at them, and yeah, it was really sad. It was really sad. I was actually lucky enough to sit in the jump seat in the cockpit of a BA 747 for a landing at Heathrow, which was just incredible. That was when I was quite young. I guess, I don't know, 13, 14. I was on my way back from Johannesburg, and it was, yeah, it was just spectacular. So yeah, it's a sad day. It's weird. I felt weird getting emotional about, you know, chunks of metal. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. We're about 20 minutes away from our top of descent now. Now, this being MSFS, I'm going to turn the anti-icing on here. All of it. I don't know if they fixed the icing issue in the latest mod, but I'm not taking any chances. So icing conditions exist when the true air temperature in flight is at or below 10 degrees Celsius and visible moisture in any form is present. But you don't need to turn anti-icing on if the SAT is below -40, so I don't know what we're at the moment. It's -35. No, so we should have the icing on, aside from the buggy simulation. Really? The AI mode on the latest patch has stopped you flying and following ILS? Really? I mean, the flight I did last night, it captured the ILS alright. I mean, I haven't done an auto land with it, but it did follow the localizer and glide slope alright. Delta Airlines probably would be in Italy, but not in an A320. Oh, good. And you're using the latest version. I think it was updated overnight. Okay, good. Good. I like to feel at least slightly confident that the approach will go all right. What do you mean by the low altitude ILS now? This Star Alliance logo doesn't really bear close inspection, does it? Pull back a little. Okay. The only thing I'm confused about, the ILS is the instrument landing system, so I don't know what you mean by low altitude, and I when you say it takes off and heads straight ahead, I can't quite picture what you mean. Oh, okay, you mean IFR. So you select IFR, Instrument Flight Rules, and then you select Low Altitude Airways, and that isn't working. Is that what you mean? If so, are you flying the A320, or which aircraft are you finding it buggy in? Okay. Well, I haven't flown anything but the A320 in IFR conditions since the last patch, so yeah, I haven't experienced it myself. I take it high altitude airways are working okay. Okay, I mean, I always use high altitude airways because I mostly do airliner flights, so they seem alright for me. Might be worth a go. And you can always submit a bug report via Zendesk. It is really annoying when these patches come out and they break more than they fix, isn't it? I'm still feeling positive about the next patch, which is coming out on the 12th, is it? I don't know, sometime soon. I'm feeling hopeful that they will fix the things that they broke in the last two patches, if nothing else. You can follow the localizer into the ILS approaches. Good. You haven't yet learned how to lock into the glide slope using the approach mode button. Okay, so you mean that you're pushing this button here to lock onto the localizer, right? Well, all you should need to do to capture the glide slope as well is use the approach button instead, and in the same way, as long as you are... So let's say, for example, you are at 2,000 feet and you're below the glide slope. If you turn this mode on, then it should capture the glide slope in exactly the same way as captures the localizer. So in fact, I very, very rarely use the localizer button. I always use the approach button because it will capture the localizer first, and then it will capture the glide slope. It's a little bit buggy in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it mostly works for me so far. No problem, let me know how you get on. Okay, so we're coming up to our top of descent now, so we'll hand over control to the co-pilot.
You have control.
I have control.
And we'll start setting up our perf approach page. So I'll just refresh the METAR information for Haneda. So the QNH is 1022. We will see if any of this bears any relation to what's in the sim shortly. Temperature is 16. Quite a lot colder than in Nagasaki. And the wind is from 360 at 19 knots. That's going to make for an interesting approach. Transition altitude will be 14,000 feet again. And looking at the charts, I can't remember what approach I'm expecting. 3-4 right, I think. Yes, that's right. ILS Yankee 3-4 right. Looking at the chart, our decision altitude is 220 feet. So we will set our auto brakes to low because we've got a nice long runway, we don't need any more than that. I don't normally use the weather radar because I find it too bright on this and you can't see your route, but we'll turn it on for now. Turn it off if it gets distracting. Good, and that's all we need to do, so we'll take back control.
I have control.
You have control.
And we will do our approach checklist once we pass the transition height. Transition level even. Uber Goob, welcome, nice to see you. How are things? Really high level cloud here, it's unusual.
All Nippon 664 expect the ILS approach to runway 34 right at Tokyo Haneda International.
Expect the ILS approach to runway 34 right, all Nippon 664.
Okay, so arrival. ILS 34 right, Yankee approach. Via Kaiho, let me just check if that makes sense. Yeah, it does. Have we got a top of descent point marked on our ND yet? No. Sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't in my experience. I love Pilot to ATC compared with the default. I think it's much better. There's a lot wrong with the default ATC, and Pilot to ATC can do a lot more out the box than the default can. So for our takeoff, for example, they gave us an instruction to climb straight ahead to 1,000 feet and then make a right turn to a particular heading, which is the sort of thing you would expect when you're not using a SID. I was saying earlier on, Ubagoob, I did my first flight on VATSIM yesterday with Kevin. Tried a little bit of multiplayer, and that was incredible. It was a bit stressful because you're trying to tune the radios and talk and fly the plane, but in terms of realism, you can't beat it, I don't think. The only downside, of course, is that you're reliant on other people being online for it to work properly. And you can find yourself left on your own.
Contact Tokyo Center on 134.15. Have a good morning.
Center on 134.15.
But yeah, Pilot to ATC has a free trial, so it can't hurt to give it a go and see what you think.
Center all Nippon 664 at flight level 350.
All Nippon 664, good morning. Radar contact.
Just going to see if it's given us a... I think it might have messed up our waypoints, is it? No, it's just for some reason thinks we should still be at flight level 350 at Kaiho, which is very close to our destination runway. And for some reason it won't let me change it. This was working the other day. This is the trouble. This is what I'm finding when I'm doing my, what do you call it, my tutorial. I'm trying to show people how to do things, but all of the things I'm showing work one day and then don't work the next, so it's really frustrating.
Maintain flight level 270.
Descent and maintain flight level 270, all Nippon 664.
It doesn't hugely matter that the constraint isn't working. We can just use selected altitude mode to descend when instructed. I'll just see if our frequency has been tuned in on the navigation radio page. Yes, it has, 108.9. The course is not the same. It should be 337, but I don't think you can change that yet. Nah, it doesn't seem to matter. Gosh, we're descending incredibly fast, aren't we? Okay, it's calming down a little bit now. Bit too much, in fact. We're now levelling off. I have no idea why. Have we got a constraint in there that we shouldn't have? No. So we're heading to NSU, and it's predicting we should be at flight level 272. So why it doesn't want to descend below where we are now, I have no idea. Oh, I do. It's because it wants to slow down to 240 knots, which is interesting. Still, at least we've got a more reasonable descent rate now, 3,000 feet per minute. Yeah, they are, but only sometimes for some reason. It's something that the default aircraft did a lot, just climbing like 6,000 feet a minute after takeoff and descending at a similar rate. But I haven't noticed it for a while since the mod came out, in fact, I think. So I don't know what's changed. I don't know why it's just today decided to dive like that. I'm just having a look at my approach plate and my plan, and I don't think we do want to go via Kaiho, actually. I think we want vectors to final, because, yeah, we're arriving at Kirby, and then we're more or less on the final.
Descent and maintain flight level 190.
Descent and maintain flight level 190, all Nippon 664.
So we should be able to choose 34 right, Yankee approach again. No star. No transition. But we can't change the via point for some reason. Oh yes we can. Approach vias, no vias. Done. There we go. Right, so the reason you have dashed lines is because it's in managed mode. So you have two options on the Airbus aircraft. You either let the which is essentially VNAV. So you can either let the aircraft choose its own heading and its own speed based on the flight plan, which is what we're doing now, or you can intervene and switch from managed mode to selected mode. So if you push the button in, then you'll get a heading coming up which you can adjust. So say I want to turn right 10 degrees, just move the knob and the aircraft changes to that new heading. But most of the time, unless you're being vectored, it should be left in managed mode. So we'll turn it back to that and it'll continue following our flight plan. The altitude always displays a figure, but again you have a managed altitude mode which should in theory make the aircraft climb and descend at the optimal rate, and you have a selected altitude mode which works more like a conventional autopilot. So if you choose selected mode, then it won't look at the altitude constraints that are coming up, it'll just descend in open descent mode to that altitude. But we'll put it back in managed mode for now. I would quite like to delete this waypoint now I've changed the approach, but no, it won't let me. Never mind, hopefully we'll get vectors before then anyway. In worst case scenario we do a little dog leg. No problem. If I ever get this far, thanks Pablo. If I ever get this far with my tutorial series, I will endeavour to explain it in a bit more detail. But the way the current tutorial's going, I might just leave it at 1. So if we were flying in a proper simulation of the A320, we would have, for example, a constraint at X-ray Alpha Charlie. We'd put that in here, the altitude constraint, and if that was the only one, then the managed altitude mode would descend at the perfect rate to get us to that waypoint at that altitude. And the fly-by-wire guys are working on it, and it does sort of follow altitude constraints, but it's not perfect.
Cabin crew, prepare for arrival.
At Tokyo Haneda International descent and maintain 1,000 feet.
QNH is 1022 descent and maintain 1,000 feet, all Nippon 664.
So we're passing 20,000 feet, which is a good time to turn the seatbelt signs on. And if everyone could put their fags out, that would be appreciated. I'm going to put those no smoking signs back to on. It is all very clever. It's a fascinating aircraft. It really does pretty much fly itself if you want it to. The final thing I should say about managed altitude mode, the reason it isn't dashed out is because it still does require you to set an altitude. So we've got it set to 11,000 because that's what we've been cleared to. If, say, we had an altitude constraint on our flight plan that we should be at 9,000 feet or below, the aircraft still wouldn't descend below 11,000 because that's basically the limit we've given it. What was the QNH 1022, I think she said. So we'll change to local pressure. We'll just press B to match the in-sim pressure, and we will get the co-pilot to do the same.
1017 set.
101.
Yes, I do, Marco.
Set.
Yeah, this
passing 15,000.
This is the latest master build.
Now,
check.
And we can run our approach checklist.
Approach checklist.
Briefing.
Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Baro ref.
1017 set.
1017 set. Minimum. Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist complete.
I do apologise. I should have given you 5 minutes warning. This is the trouble with these passengers. You give them an inch, they take a mile, you know. Some would say, thank you, Captain, for allowing me to smoke all the way through the flight, even though it's basically illegal everywhere in the world. But no, I just get complaints about having a half-finished one big stubbed out. Quite choppy in this cloud, as we would expect with all the pink on the weather radar, of course. Well, they've got a new app which does it automatically for you, Ubergoob. It is...
All Nippon 664
I'll find a link for you in a second.
4,800 feet.
Descent and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,000. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Yeah, you've already said that. I am. Ah, but maybe it's following our altitude constraints. So this is where we will turn to selected altitude mode, because we've been given a lower clearance.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Oh, I'm doing it! Give me a break, honestly.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
It does do this sometimes, pilot to ATC.
Descent and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Ah, I can't find the link. If you go to the GitHub Uber, then you'll find, you should find it on there.
664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Why does it keep telling me?
All Nippon
Why?
664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet. All Nippon 664 descend.
I think pilot to ATC is just frozen. None of its figures are updating.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Right, landing lights on below 10,000 feet.
All
We'll
Nippon
turn our runway turn
664
off lights
descend and
on as
maintain
well.
4,000. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet. All
Yeah, we
Nippon
might.
664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
Okay, I can't unfreeze
All
pilot to
Nippon 664
ATC for
descend
some
and
reason,
maintain 4,800 feet.
and it won't let me click on anything. So I
All
think
Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800
I think we're just going to have to close it.
feet. All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800 feet.
God, it won't close. Right, you might get a little pause here while I start the task manager and try and kill it.
Descent and maintain
unless it's woken up.
4,800 feet. All Nippon 66.
All Nippon 664 descend and maintain 4,800.
Yeah, no, we're going to quit it. We're going to quit it. And we will fly this final bit without ATC. Yeah, that must be a bug. I might contact the developer or go on their forums with a link to this bit and see what's causing it. So the new plan, looking at my map, is that we will fly as far as Camel, and then we should already be on a heading to intercept the localizer, so we should be okay. and we want to intercept it at 1,500 feet. Just check my flight plan a second. So yeah, this is correct. We should be at 2,000 feet by Kirby. We don't want to fly to Keiho, but we can't get rid of it for some reason, I don't think. I'll try once more. No. So we want to go from Utibo to Kirby, and I'll try a direct to when we get a bit closer. Yeah, it is pretty windy. This pink on the weather radar shows areas of turbulence. It's not super accurate in this sim, but yeah, it's certainly bumpy. Got a 43 knot headwind at the moment. Let's update our pressure, make sure we're on track. Yep. Let's see if... oh, where are we on the flight plan? So we're on our way to XAC. So yeah, from XAC, we'll just fly direct to Kirby, I think, because that's got the right altitude constraint of 2,000 feet. And we'll see how it does with managed altitude mode. The engine exhausts look a bit weird in this cloud, don't they? Oh good, I'm pleased you, Biggie. That's my aim. I'm glad you find it useful in that way. So you notice I'm moving the altitude knob down to 2,000. It won't descend until he says, yeah, it shouldn't descend until I either engage selected altitude mode again by pushing the button, or engage managed altitude mode by pulling the button. But yeah, we were given this descent clearance pretty early, so we got plenty of time to play with at this height. So as I say, we're going to be landing on runway 34 right via the ILS Yankee approach, and then we'll be parking at gate 52, which is where the real world flight parked most recently. So it should be a very short taxi. So I have a my specifications are in the description, but I use an i7-8700K processor, 1080 Ti graphics card, 32 gigs of RAM, and I use a Thrustmaster T16000.M joystick. I don't use pedals or a separate throttle quadrant. Mostly because of space, because I just sim on my PC in the corner of my living room and I don't want it to don't want it to take over my whole room. So if we were in the real world, we would probably be able to ask ATC for vectors around this patch of weather, and we could probably come round here to the right where it's less turbulent. But that isn't an option even with Pilot 2 ATC at the moment, though apparently it's something he's working on. It's a very fast V approach again. The flight yesterday, it got it just about right, but not today. Still, we'll try it, because if you land too slow, or what the sim thinks is too slow, then you end up with that bug we had on arrival into Heathrow, with it rolling right and being uncontrollable on touchdown. So I'm just changing the range so I get a better view of our approach. And you can see down here why I wanted to delete Keho, as it just doesn't make sense for our flight plan. So yeah, we want to go, well, because we haven't got any ATC anymore, we'll go direct from XAC to Curvy. Yeah, it does roll too much. It didn't used to. So again, this is something I hope they'll have fixed in the next update, but we shall see. There was someone on my last stream who said that you should fly without payload and that fixes it. And I've done a couple of flights since then where it's been fine with payload, but if we have another mess up on final this time, then I'll try that for the next flight. Yes, it's much steadier on other sim platforms. It's so I mean, it depends which add-on you use. I've tried the Aerosoft Airbus on P3D, and that was, I mean, it was noticeably better than this. But the FS Labs really flies beautifully. It does everything it's supposed to do, and you certainly don't get any of this rolling on final. It's a lot more stable. They are. They're also like hen's teeth at the moment. Oh, it's a good question there. It's a good question. Personally, I think you could master certain aspects of it. I think you could get used to reading your instruments. But the difference between the sim, the main difference between the sim and real world flying is the feeling of the aircraft. You don't get any feedback through your joystick. Even with a force feedback, it just doesn't feel the same at all. And spatial awareness. So a huge part of the PPL syllabus is looking out the window. Very little looking at the instruments. And I think there's a danger, particularly if you are simming before you try and learn to fly for real, that you'll end up with some bad habits. So I think it could work against you potentially. Once you've done your PPL, if you want to do an instrument rating, then certainly the simulator's brilliant for that, for practicing your instrument procedures. But for basic visual flying, my gut feeling is could help, could hinder. I was reading an article or reading a comment about this, and I think some flying instructors suggest that you just don't fly your sim when you're doing your PPL training. So much for having a nice look at Mount Fuji on this flight, eh? I'm surprised that ATC cleared us down to this altitude so early, actually, because we are just bumping along needlessly through this cloud. No, I haven't heard that. I think perhaps when you're flying an aircraft like this, though, if you've got a decent PC simulation of the A320, which this isn't, then yeah, you could certainly practice flying this because there's so little hands-on flying. Right, let's try now, see if it works, going direct to Kirby. Hasn't updated our flight plan, but maybe it has. Maybe just... What is going on with this? Oh, okay, no, it's highlighted. It hasn't behaved quite as it should. So now we're going direct to Kirby. We know we have a 2,000 feet altitude constraint. So if I select managed altitude mode, then it should start a very slow descent to get us to 2,000 feet at Kirby and not before. What I suspect it'll do is give us a fairly rapid descent to 2,000 feet, and we'll get there early. But we'll see. We'll see. Interestingly, the pressure is going up as we get closer to Tokyo, so maybe the in-sim weather there is more accurate than I thought. I think they said it was 1022, the QNH. And I'll check the METAR again. Yeah, it's looking similar. Few clouds at 600, scattered clouds at 700, 900 feet broken clouds, and light rain. Has the wind moved at all? 340 at 20. Let's just
checked.
Update our perf page. Well, if that's modelled correctly, that's an improvement really, because 340 is going to be directly on our nose rather than the crosswind we had before, which would be nice. Oh, Anton, I haven't done any more scenery reviews. I would like to. I'm trying to do a tutorial at the moment, and that's taking me hours and hours and hours. But once I've done that, then I'll probably do a review of Wickham Airpark, because that's a brilliant scenery. In short, if you're on to review now, it looks beautiful. It's very atmospheric. The modelling and the texturing are fantastic, as is the night lighting, and you should buy it. So that's my very short review of of the Pilot. Is it Pilot Plus? It's on Warbeck's Direct anyway. Wickham Airpark. But really, I need to wait and see what comes out next. And if it's something I'll use, then I will buy it and I will do a review of it. But if not, then I probably won't, just to do a review. But there certainly will be more at some point. Welcome back, Mossy. Bad luck on the power cut. No problem. But again, I guess it's a bit of a niche product, Wickham Airpark, compared with a major international airport. I snapped it up because it's where I first flew in real life, and it's very local to London, so I will get a lot of use out of it. But there's some good products on the horizon. There's a Dublin airport from MK Studios. I'll definitely buy and review that. And there's something coming from Orbex as well, Gothenburg, I think. So, and I'll almost definitely buy and review that as well. Yes, you're right, Aerosoft have quite a lot in the pipeline. I'm really hoping that someone brings out a Heathrow Airport scenery. I've got the Premium Deluxe, so I have the handcrafted airport, but it's not up to the standards of what Fly Tampa or Gaia or Flightbeam can do. We had an OK one in FSX. We had a couple of OK ones from UK 2000 and who's the other? And Aerosoft. Simwings published by Aerosoft. You were going to ask if I use a yoke or a yoke. I use neither, Mossy. I use a stick. I just find it more versatile. I wouldn't want to fly an Airbus with a yoke, for example. And also it sits on my desk and doesn't take up too much room. Yeah, exactly the same with Skiffle. Skiffle's always had a beautiful version by Fly Tampa though, and we haven't quite had anything that good with Heathrow. Oh, it's a tough one there. I could... to be honest, For short haul, I prefer the Airbus A320 to the Boeing 737. For long haul, I prefer a Boeing. And probably I like the Airbus more because it's just much more used in Europe, and it gives me a greater choice of real-world routes to fly. Oh, how do you find the honeycomb? So the aircraft should automatically select approach mode, and on the real aircraft you get a symbol, I think it's a blue dot, where that happens, but it's not implemented in this version yet. And what happens there is that it'll begin slowing you down to your flap extension speed. If it doesn't do it itself, or it doesn't do it as early as you would like, then you can click on activate approach mode down here to set it early. What is this? Is this rain, or is this some sort of St. Elmo's fire? Oh, interesting, Samson. I never knew that. So it literally means ship hole. Ship hole. I never. Oh, that sounds like a good project, Pablo. Are you going to suspend it from your ceiling or something like that? Or mount it somewhere? This does look like some kind of electrical activity, doesn't it? Very interesting. Okay, nice. I'd like to see a picture when you've done it. Cool. So as a rule of thumb, in the A320 you should extend your first stage of flaps before you intercept the localizer, and you should extend your second stage of flaps and lower the gear before you intercept the glide slope. And we've got the ILS being captured now. And we've got about 10 miles to run before we hit the localizer. Oh, is it? Mossy says that he thinks the chat is frozen. No, it seems to be working. Have a quick look on YouTube. No, it's working. I think just went a bit quiet. We'll bring the range down again a little bit more. And I think we'll activate approach mode now. So you'll notice that the aircraft's slowing down to our green dot speed, and we can extend our first stage of flaps then. No, I haven't flown here in night time either now. Maybe we could do that next time. I'll have a check of the airports before we do and make sure they are night lit. But yeah, if they are, it could be fun. Oh really, there are bits missing. Oh, I don't know what that's about. Hello Harry, welcome back. Good timing as always. Okay, so we'll extend our first stage of flaps around about now.
Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
And as you see, the speed's coming down to what should be our flap 2 extension speed. And sometimes that doesn't work and I get shouted at by the co-pilot. Hello Barry, welcome to the stream. We're just about to intercept the ILS for runway 34 right at Haneda. And you can see our glide slopes are live, so we will extend stage 2 of flaps.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Gear down.
And ask for gear down. And we would expect it to slow to flap 3 extension speed at this point, but it doesn't. You've actually got a little panel here which tells you the maximum speed. Okay, should be 230 knots, but I bet if I ask for flap 3 he says check speed. Yeah. Yeah, it's proper grim. Okay, so we haven't quite intercepted the glide slope, so we'll get it to descend further. Because this aircraft... Oh, I haven't pressed the approach mode button, that's probably why. Why are you shouting there?
Zinc brake. Zinc brake. Zinc brake.
We'll arm our speed brake, it's already done.
Zinc brake.
And we've captured the localizer and the glide slope now. So we'll call for flaps 3.
Check the speed.
And he always says check the speed, so we'll bring it down ourselves to something like 145, 150 knots.
Checked. Flaps 3.
Check the speed.
Except it doesn't want to slow us down. Come on.
Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed checked.
Flaps full.
And here we are, disengage
Cabin
the autopilot.
crew, be seated for landing.
Landing checklist.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
Auto thrust.
Speed.
Auto brake.
Low.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
This was all a bit of a rush. It was a shorter final than I was expecting. Which incidentally is exactly what happened on VATSIM last night at Copenhagen. But never mind, we'll hopefully just be able to land a little bit long. Oh, this is not going to be my finest moment, is it? 'Hello, Sasan, thank you.
Continue.
70 knots.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the conclusion.
Okay, and we'll exit the runway to the left.
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign and the aircraft is parked safely. This will be your indication that it is safe to move around the cabin.
Oh, is it stuttering again? That's the second time landing at this airport that you lot have experienced stutters. It was totally smooth here. So I don't know why that is. It must be something to do with the streaming software, perhaps an increased load on the GPU or the CPU. Bumpy old taxiway, isn't it? Right, we'll stop here, we'll turn off the landing lights, turn off the runway turn-off lights, and we'll start the APU.
After landing checklist.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Spoilers.
Disarmed.
APU.
Start.
Radar.
Why aren't we moving? Oh, I set the parking brake, that's why. Radar off.
Off.
Predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing checklist complete.
Well, I'm sorry about the lag. Thank you for the compliments. Very nice of you. I think there's an argument for me having gone... Well, there's an argument that I should have gone around there. It was not a particularly stable approach, but yeah, the landing itself, not too bad considering. Thank you, Pablo. Right, let me just check where we're parking. I believe it's up here, 52. Yeah, it is. Second from the end on the left. Yeah, but in the sim, it didn't stutter. I have experienced stuttering on landing, but it didn't this time, so it must have been the stream. I don't know if it's a bug. Might be. Anyway, grim old day in Tokyo weather-wise. Yeah, I certainly would recommend that Samsonite.
Taxi light off.
Taxi light off just before we turn onto the stand. Yeah, I'm sure they will. Oh right, yeah, I've been there. I ran FS 2004 on a Mac laptop for a long time and it wasn't quite up to it. Right, here we are. Welcome to Tokyo Haneda, everybody. So we'll turn the engine anti-ice off. Strobe should have gone off straight after landing. Turn the engines off. APU bleed on. Beacon off, seatbelt sign off, and we'll run the parking checklist.
Parking checklist.
APU bleed.
On.
Engines.
Off.
Seatbelts.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Set.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking brake and chocks.
Fuel pumps are not off.
On and in.
Parking checklist complete. Consider heavy rain.
Yeah. My drone's the wrong side of the terminal building. Okay, where is the marshaller? I think you only get a marshaller if you follow the default ATC's directions to the stand. You did FS9 on your laptop. Yeah, same. And a big amount of add-ons. Yeah. Yeah, so did I. Good, thank you now. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I'm just going to scroll up and check I haven't missed any messages. Let's fly somewhere sunny, Barry. Yes, we will. We will. I always fly in real world weather, so it's a little bit hit and miss. But yeah, I'll try and find some nicer weather for the next flight if I can. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I think we'll call it a day there. And my next stream will probably, I might squeeze one in on Sunday, but it probably won't be till Monday because I've got a bit of a busy weekend. In the meantime, I'll be working on my A320 tutorial, so look out for that at some point. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel or follow me on Twitch. You can also come and join my Discord server. There's a link in the description, and we can chat further on there. But other than that, thanks for coming. And enjoy the rest of your days, and I hope to see you again soon on Philbert Flies. Take care. Bye bye.